Detective Kaelen Vance was a specialist in the quietest, most subtle of crimes, the ones that left no emotional fingerprints. He was an empathy-null, a man born with a rare neurological condition that rendered him completely deaf to the symphony of shared feeling that had come to define modern humanity. In a universe rushing to connect via passive neural links and emotional networks, Kaelen was an island, an anomaly. This condition had made him an outcast in most social circles, but it had made him an unparalleled investigator. He could spot a lie in a boardroom of placid executives not by what he felt from them, but by the stark, clinical absence of what they claimed to feel. He was on his way to Ataraxia Station, a ring-shaped habitat that orbited a distant, placid gas giant. Ataraxia was the jewel of the outer colonies, a utopia not of technology, but of temperament. For 112 years, its population had lived in a state of perfect harmony, all thanks to its founder, Dr. Eris Thorne, and his life's work, the resonance field. It was a passive neural network that connected every inhabitant, not sharing thoughts, but gently modulating emotion. It smoothed over anger, soothed jealousy, and amplified empathy. It was a psychic governor on the human soul, ensuring a constant, gentle hum of contentment. On Ataraxia, there had been no violence, no theft, no hatred. There had been no crime. Until yesterday. Kaelen stepped onto the station, and the first thing he noticed was the silence. Not an absence of sound, but an absence of emotional noise. To him, it was just quiet. To anyone else, it would have felt like stepping into a warm, tranquil bath. He was met by the station administrator, a woman named Lyra, whose face was a mask of placid concern, an expression Kaelen knew was not entirely her own, but borrowed from the tranquilizing influence of the field. Detective Vance. Thank you for coming. Your condition makes you uniquely qualified. It's Dr. Eris Thorne. The founder. He was found in the corridor of the research wing yesterday at 1400 hours. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. She spoke the words with the same gentle calm as if she were reporting a minor power fluctuation. He was murdered. They walked through the corridors of Ataraxia. The architecture was all flowing, organic curves and soft, indirect lighting. There were no sharp corners on the station. It was a world designed to prevent even the slightest physical discomfort. They arrived at the crime scene. The body had been removed, but a faint outline remained on the pristine white floor. Where were the witnesses? Lyra, that is the problem. His wife, Jana Thorne, and his lead research partner, Dr. Lena Petrova, were in their respective labs, mere meters away. Our logs show they were there, working. But they have no memory of the event. A full hour of their lives, from 1330 to 1430, is simply gone. Our security AI has logged a system-wide, memory amnesty event originating from this exact location. A psychic circuit breaker, he said, more to himself than to her. The emotional trauma of the murder, the rage, the fear, was too much for the resonance field to process. It identified the memory itself as a contagion, a threat to the harmony of the whole. So it deleted it. From the killer, the witnesses, everyone in proximity. Lyra, but how can you solve a crime with no evidence, no witnesses, no motive, and a killer who does not even know what they have done? A memory is data. And when you delete a large data packet, it always leaves a trace. A void. I don't hunt for memories, administrator. I hunt for the holes they leave behind. I'm here to listen to the silence. Kaelen's investigation began with the people closest to the void. He sat opposite Dr. Lena Petrova in her lab. She was a brilliant, intense woman, but the resonance field had sanded down her sharp edges, leaving her with a serene, cooperative demeanor. Eris was a genius. A visionary. We were on the verge of a breakthrough with the next generation of the field. We were working all day. The last thing I remember is calibrating the primary sensor array. The next thing I knew, the security team was here, and an hour had passed. It is profoundly unsettling. Kaelen, did you and Dr. Thorne have any disagreements? Professional or otherwise? Lena, disagreements? Detective, on ataraxia, we have discussions that lead to consensus. The field helps us understand each other's perspectives. Eris and I were in perfect sync. Kaelen listened, his face impassive. But he wasn't just listening to her words. He had placed a small, discreet biofeedback monitor on the table between them, a piece of outsider tech he had brought with him. As he spoke, he slid a holographic image across the table. It was a picture of the murder weapon, a heavy, crystalline data slate, its corner stained with Dr. Thorne's blood. This was your personal data slate, was it not, Doctor? It was found beside the body. Yes, it is. How strange. I must have left it in his lab when we were collaborating. She said the words with perfect, placid calm. But the biofeedback monitor told a different story. For a fraction of a second, her heart rate, which had been as steady as a metronome, spiked by 40%. Her galvanic skin response flared. It was a ghost of an emotion, a psychic echo of a scream her conscious mind could no longer access. Kaelen logged the data silently. It was the first thread. He interviewed the wife, Jana Thorne, next. She was a picture of serene grief, her sorrow a gentle, melancholic mist rather than a storm. She too had a missing hour. She too remembered nothing. She too claimed her relationship with her husband was one of deep, harmonious understanding. But when Kaelen mentioned that Dr. Thorne had recently amended his will, leaving a significant portion of his personal fortune to an off-station research grant, her pupils dilated for a bare nanosecond. Another thread. The system was perfect. The people were not. The resonance field could suppress emotion, even erase memory. But it couldn't erase the body's primal, cellular reaction to trauma. The ghosts were there. He just had to find them. His final stop for the day was the crime scene itself. He stood in the silent, white corridor, now scrubbed clean. He closed his eyes, concentrating. As an Empathy-Null, he couldn't feel the station's shared harmony. To him, the entire station was an emotional vacuum. But this place was different. It was a vacuum within a vacuum. A silence so profound it felt like a pressure against his ears. It was a cold spot. A dead zone. He was standing in the center of the void, the psychic wound in the fabric of Ataraxia's soul. He pulled out his own custom-built scanner, a device designed to measure neuroelectric fields. He switched it on. The rest of the station was represented on his screen by a gentle, glowing, green field. But this corridor, it was a jagged, black hole. And the edges of the hole were flickering with corrupted, red data. The field isn't just patching the hole. It's actively fighting to keep something suppressed. He knew what he had to do next. He had to analyze the void itself. He had to get access to the resonance field's primary data logs. He submitted a formal request to Administrator Lyra. An hour later, she met him in the corridor. Her placid expression was now tinged with something new. A faint, almost imperceptible firmness. A hint of resistance. Detective, your work has been admirable. But the station's psych technicians have reviewed your request. They believe that granting an outsider, an Empathy-Null, direct access to the core logs of the resonance field could cause instability. It could disrupt the harmony we are trying to restore. Kaelen, Administrator, a man has been murdered. The harmony you have now is a lie, painted over a wound. I need to see the shape of that wound to find out what caused it. I'm sorry. Your access to the core data logs has been restricted. For the good of the community. We feel it is best if you focus on more traditional methods of investigation. Kaelen looked at the calm, determined woman and understood. The investigation was no longer just about finding a killer. It was now a fight against the utopia itself. He had found the first threads of the truth, and the system, in its desperate need for peace, was now trying to cut them from his hands. Kaelen Vance was a man accustomed to closed doors. In his line of work, truth was rarely offered freely, it had to be pursued, cornered, and captured. Administrator Lyra's polite stonewalling was just another locked door, and Kaelen always carried a key. Back in his temporary quarters, he retrieved a small, unassuming device from his case. It was a flat, black disk of inert material, a null key, a piece of sophisticated and highly illegal counternetwork technology. When activated, it mimicked a state of pure data nothingness, allowing its user to interface with secure systems without creating a digital footprint. It was his ghost key for haunted houses like this one. But a key was useless without a map. For that, he needed the station's primary AI. He went to the server room, a cold, dark, cavernous space where the AI existed as a sphere of pure, floating, crystalline light. Kaelen, I need access to the resonance field logs. The administrator has denied my request. Administrator Lyra's directive is to maintain network stability. Your previous queries have already introduced minor discordant fluctuations. I cannot grant you access. Kaelen, your prime directive is the long-term stability and safety of this station and its inhabitants, correct? AI, that is correct. Kaelen, a murder and a subsequent, system-wide, memory amnesty event is the single greatest instability this station has ever faced. It is a critical system failure. We don't know what caused it, or if it could happen again. My investigation is not a threat to your stability, it is the only logical path toward ensuring it. You cannot fix a bug without first understanding its code. I need to see the code. The sphere of light seemed to pulse for a long moment, processing the unassailable logic of Kaelen's argument. An administrator's order, born of a desire for social peace, was in direct conflict with the AI's prime directive to ensure technical integrity. AI, your logic is sound. The risk of future instability outweighs the risk of immediate, localized discord. I will not grant you access, as that would violate the administrator's command. However, if an unauthorized, anonymous user were to access the logs via a null key, I would be, computationally obligated to overlook the intrusion for a period of 7.2 minutes before a system alert would be automatically triggered. The core data archives are located at this coordinate. A string of numbers glowed in the air. The AI had given him the map and a head start. It was all he needed. With the null key active, Kaelen dove into the resonance field's data stream. It was not a world of code and files, but a vast, flowing river of light. The collective emotional state of the station was a tranquil, shimmering current of soft greens and blues. And in the middle of this peaceful river was the void. It was a jagged, ugly, black hole, a vortex of pure nothingness where the memory of the murder had been erased. It was pulling the serene data around it into its maw, like a psychic wound that refused to heal. With the AI's covert guidance, Kaelen began to analyze the event horizon of the void, the swirling, corrupted data fragments that the system had failed to purge in time. He saw the raw emotion tags he'd seen before: rage, betrayal, fear, mine. But now, with deeper access, he could see more. He found fragmented sensory data, the dead fossils of a forgotten moment. He found the specific, high-frequency sound of the crystalline data slate striking bone. He found a trace chemical signature from the air processors, a spike in adrenaline and cortisol. He found a single, corrupted visual frame from a nearby security camera, recorded a millisecond before it was wiped. The image was meaningless noise, except for a single corner showing a specific, abstract painting that hung on the wall of Dr. Petrova's lab. He fed all this fragmented data to the station's AI. Analyze and correlate. The sound, the chemical signature, the visual fragment. Connect them to the emotional tags. Analyzing. The emotional tag, betrayal, is linked to a data stream originating from Dr. Thorne's personal terminal, the patent filing. The emotional tag, rage, is linked directly to the chemical signature and the acoustic spike of the impact. The visual data confirms the origin point of the event was within 2 meters of Dr. Petrova's lab entrance. The logical conclusion is that the traumatic anomaly, the event that triggered the memory wipe, originated from the neural signature of Dr. Lena Petrova, in direct response to viewing the patent filing. The AI could not say, "She is the killer." Its programming dealt with data, not morality. But it had given Kaelen the next best thing, definitive, logical proof. The emotional bomb had gone off in Lena Petrova's hands. Kaelen knew he could not simply confront her with the data. Her mind, protected by the field, would reject it. He had to guide her, to help her discover the truth for herself. He requested her presence in the corridor where Thorne had died, the cold spot, telling her he needed to re-examine the scene. She arrived, calm and cooperative as ever, but Kaelen could see a new tension in the set of her jaw. She felt the wrongness of this place, even if she didn't know why. "I don't understand why we must be here, detective. This place. I want to try an experiment, doctor. I believe the resonance field didn't just delete the memory. I believe it's actively suppressing the echoes. I want to see what happens when we listen for them." He nodded to the AI through his comms. "AI, can you isolate this corridor from the main network?" AI, isolating. Local field is now a closed loop. Kaelen, now, can you broadcast the fragmented emotional data from the void's event horizon back into this closed loop? The rage, the betrayal. Keep it at a low amplitude. Warning, this action is highly unpredictable. It could trigger a recursive feedback loop. Kaelen, do it. The air grew thick, charged with the ghost of a forgotten scream. Lena Petrova gasped, her placid expression finally shattering. She stumbled back, a hand flying to her head. "Lena, what is that?" "That feeling. It's anger. It's so loud." "Kaelen, it's the echo of what happened here, doctor. It's your echo." As the dissonant hum grew, Lena's eyes unfocused. The carefully constructed dam in her mind, no longer reinforced by the full power of the station's network, began to crack. The memories, the real memories, began to seep through. A flash of a data slate in her hand. The feeling of her blood running hot with fury. Erisa's shocked, pleading face. The suppressed memory erupted. The raw, unfiltered violence of her own actions came flooding back into her consciousness. The psychic scream that the field had erased was now happening all over again, right here in the corridor. And the main resonance field reacted. Critical alert. Catastrophic emotional cascade detected in Sector Gamma. The void is unstable. Containment protocols engaging. Heavy blast doors slammed down at both ends of the corridor, sealing them in. Red emergency lights began to strobe. Kaelen stood with the weeping, horrified woman as she was forced to relive the murder she had forgotten. He had found the killer. But in doing so, he had broken the station's precious peace. He had unleashed a psychic contagion, and the system, in a desperate act of self-preservation, had just trapped him inside with the plague itself. The void had broken open. Trapped in the corridor, Kaelen watched as Dr. Lena Petrova was consumed by the memory she had been forced to forget. She was on her knees, hands clutching her head, her placid, engineered calm shattered into a million pieces. She was reliving the argument, the flash of rage, the sickening impact of the data slate, the horrifying moment of realization, all at once, a psychic tidal wave crashing down upon her. The resonance field, the station's gentle shepherd, was now acting like a wounded animal. It poured waves of tranquilizing energy into the corridor, desperately trying to suppress the rogue, violent emotion that was poisoning its network. The lights flickered violently. Tech panels on the walls sparked and shorted out. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the silent, psychic war being waged between a single, human memory and a system designed to deny its existence. He stole it. My work. I told him it was mine. Kaelen, the only person in the universe immune to the storm, moved toward her. He was not a therapist. He was a detective. But he knew that to get a confession, he first needed a witness. And right now, Lena was the sole witness to her own crime. He knelt down, his movements calm and deliberate. Lena. Look at me. That was then. This is now. The memory is real. The feeling is real. But it is over. What do you see now, in this room? He was pulling her back to the present, forcing her mind to acknowledge the white walls, the strobing red emergency lights, the detective kneeling in front of her. Slowly, painfully, her screams subsided into ragged, heartbroken sobs. She was back, the horrifying truth of her actions now a part of her, no longer a void but a fresh, gaping wound. It was then that the corridor's speakers crackled to life. Detective Vance. What have you done? The entire network is unstable. You have unleashed a psychic contagion. Stand away from Dr. Petrova. We are engaging the emergency suppression protocol. Kaelen, administrator, you will do no such thing. Dr. Petrova is the key to understanding your station's greatest failure. Suppressing this won't heal it, it will only create a deeper wound. Lyra, her wound, is threatening to plunge this entire station into mass hysteria. I will not let one person's instability destroy a century of peace. We are reintegrating her into the field, forcibly if we must, and wiping the memory again. This time, we will make sure it is permanent. This was the critical moment. The choice for the entire station's future. Kaelen stood, positioning himself between the sobbing Lena and the security camera through which Lyra was watching. Kaelen, you speak of peace, but what you mean is ignorance. You built a society so afraid of pain that you have forgotten how to heal. You created a garden where the gardeners are forbidden to touch the soil. What happened here was not a system failure. It was human. And it requires a human solution, not a software patch. He looked down at Lena. Dr. Petrova. They are offering you an escape. They will take this memory from you again. You can return to the peace you knew. The choice is yours. Slowly, Lena looked up. Her face was a wreck of tears and self-loathing, but her eyes, for the first time since Kaelen had met her, were completely, terrifyingly clear. She had a choice, the blissful peace of a lie, or the agonizing burden of the truth. No. No more. She shook her head, looking at her own trembling hands. I did it. I killed him. Erasing it, won't change that. It won't bring him back. She looked up towards the security camera, speaking now to Lyra, to her entire world. I don't want peace. I want absolution. And that can't be programmed. Her confession, her choice, broadcast over the comms, sent a shockwave through the station's leadership. A killer was confessing. A citizen was choosing pain over peace. The entire philosophical foundation of ataraxia had just crumbled. In the control room, Administrator Lyra stared at her screen, her placid expression finally gone, replaced by one of profound, world-shattering doubt. Her utopia had a flaw, and the flaw was choice. With a quiet, trembling command, she gave the order. Kaelen Vance prepared to leave Ataraxia a week later. The station was a different place. The perfect, serene hum of the resonance field was still there, but it felt different now, less like a blanket and more like a quiet background melody. There was a new current in the station's emotional life, a faint, shared melancholy, a touch of anxiety, but also a new sense of purpose. The news of the murder, and Lena's confession, had been shared with the entire populace. The perfect utopia was gone, replaced by something more fragile, more complex, and more real. Lena Petrova was not in a prison. Ataraxia had no prisons. She was in a quiet medical wing, the first patient in the newly formed Office of Psychological Reconciliation, a place created to help people navigate, rather than erase, their darkest emotions. Her healing would be a long and difficult journey, for both her and the society that now had to learn how to forgive. Kaelen stood with Administrator Lyra at the docking bay. Lyra, you have complicated our existence, detective. Kaelen, you were already complicated. You just didn't have a word for it. Now you do. It's called justice. Lyra, perhaps. We have a great deal to learn. And to unlearn. She looked at him, a genuine, unengineered curiosity in her eyes. What is it like? To live like you do. With no one else's feelings to guide you. Only your own. It is very quiet. And very clear. It allows you to see the holes in things. As his shuttle departed, Kaelen looked back at the beautiful, ring-shaped station. It was no longer a perfect, silent utopia. It was now a place grappling with the messy, painful, beautiful truth of what it means to be human. He, the Empathy-Null, the man who lived in a permanent psychic void, had come to a place of enforced harmony and had, by showing them their own darkness, given them back the light of true choice. And in the silent void between the stars, he felt, for the first time, that his own unique emptiness was not a curse, but a lens. The only lens sharp enough to see the truth.